therefore reiterate our call for the immediate reinstatement of the Chief Justice and the withdrawal of his unconstitutional action. The future of our republic, the confidence of our people in the judiciary, and the very soul of our democracy depends on this. Let it be known that the New Patriotic Party will fiercely and relentlessly resist any attempt to hijack our judicial system for any political gain. We urge Ghanaians across all divide to speak out and defend our constitution. We urge everyone to be part of this historic demonstration on Monday, 5th May. We must all be part of this effort. There is this sinister motive by Mr. Mahama to pack the judiciary to seek a judicial interpretation of the Constitution which will interpret Article 62 so that he intends to go a third term. This agenda, inshallah, shall fail. The appointment of Justice Puaman as a chair is inappropriate. Justice Puaman, having authored a Supreme Court ruling directly connecting to the petition against the Chief Justice, cannot be deemed to be an impartial adjudicator on this matter. His involvement erodes public interest and represents a conflict of interest. The refusal to recuse himself, despite the availability of other qualified justices of the Supreme Court, suggests a deliberate manipulation of the process to secure a determination that is already preconceived.
But I have something to tell our respected judges. Some of them, I am aware, we are aware, that are being promised by the NDC government. Today, it is Tokonu. Tomorrow, it may be them. They should listen and listen well. I want all judges in the country to know that their institution is under attack. The NDC government is approaching you, the judges, telling you that, oh, Tokonu does not have a good interpersonal relationship. She is snobbish, she is this, she is that. But I want you to know that if they allow them to use you today, tomorrow they will come after you. Yep. Act collective. Yes. It is your institution which is under attack.
And there you have it. Welcome back as we get into our big stories. You saw Henry Nana Boakye, you saw the minority leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin talking about their intended demonstration slated for Monday, God willing, and that it is not just the New Patriotic Party initiative, of course, the National Democratic Party, the Liberal Party of Ghana, among others, LPG, and I think the PNP, all joining them as well. Mr. Afenyo-Markin indicates that the protest, which has been endorsed by some other opposition political parties, and I've mentioned them, will register their public disapproval over the suspension of Chief Justice, now suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tokonu. But the question, fact, fiction, has anything been done constitutionally wrong? On the other end, is the judiciary under threat from the executive? Joining the conversation, Dr. Amakye Boateng is a political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And then we have Gideon Tete, a member, and that was no mistake, Gideon Tete, member of the NDC's legal team. Both of them join the conversation this morning. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Who has responded? Unfortunately, I can't distinguish your voices.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you doing?
I am well, I am well. So, okay, I've seen Dr. Amakye Boateng now. Gideon, are you with us?
Yes.
All right.
I'm here.
All right. So I'm going to start with preliminary comments, preliminary thoughts on these matters. Dr. Amache Boateng, as a student of politics myself, I know that you're also very concerned about these happenings because they feed into the political landscape and our democracy. What is your basic understanding of what has happened so far in respect of the removal of her ladyship, the Chief Justice?
Thank you, Ben, for having me. And let me say good morning to your viewers. Actually, I'm looking at, two of our major institutions in a way affecting one another, the way we know them to be theoretically. Politics affects institutions. Institutions affect politics. At the end of the day, they ensure that the whole system, the political system, the state functions. What is happening currently, to the best of my understanding, is that this whole thing with the government structure, structured into the executive, the judiciary, the legislature, and the idea of their independence, if you like, from one another. But then there's also this other aspect of the existence of checks and balances. It is through these checks and balances that they affect one another, they shape one another. And that's that been captured somewhere, that ambitions are made to counter ambitions. Power counters powers. If any of them, in the course of their functions, stray, then the other powers necessarily must come in to check them, to ensure that they stay in line. So what I see currently unfolding, in the case of, the processes in place to, if you like, establish whether the CJ should be, replaced or not, has got to do with these checks and balances. Ambition countering ambition and power countering power. If indeed there's cause for such an action, then obviously it will have to be done. It will have to be occasioned to ensure that the Ghanaian system functions well. So this will be, Ben, my initial comments.
All right. Let's look at Gideon. What would be your preliminary thoughts on the developments so far?
Well, thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our viewers. Well, as you indicated, no one has questioned the procedure in terms of the suspension of the Chief Justice. And nobody, and that is why we are all concerned as to why there has to be a demonstration. If indeed the President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, actually breached any of the procedure in terms of the suspension of Chief Justice, I'm sure by now we'll all be against it. But when you look at our national constitution, you see that His Excellency the President followed religiously in terms of the suspension of the Chief Justice. And I've always maintained that suspension does not mean sack. Obviously, if there are allegations against you, even as you as a host, you cannot be occupying that position as a host whilst investigations are ongoing. There's a likelihood that you are going to interfere in the investigations. And so it is normal and standard procedure that once there are allegations against you, it is only proper that you are suspended so that there's no likelihood of interference. The interference may go in your favor or may go against you. And so for it to be a fair report in terms of investigation, it is only right and proper that you excuse yourself temporarily so that investigations are done. So I don't see how, some, NPP, some apparatus, including the NPP, decide have taken a certain posture as if the Chief Justice has been sacked. Where in this country have we heard that the Chief Justice has been sacked? She has only been suspended, which is in line with our national constitution. That once there's a prima facie case against you, the president may suspend you. Now, there's a reason why there's that provision. And that provision doesn't only apply to the Chief Justice. Any office, any public office, when there are allegations against you, you are made to step aside or you are suspended pending investigations. And if indeed investigations come out that you are innocent, you come out for your position.
All right. So those are your initial thoughts, right?
Exactly so.
Yes.
Let me. I'll come to you. Dr. Amache Boateng. But let me take on Gideon just for a bit. You say the procedure has not been questioned in terms of the law, but 296 talks about discretion. It talks about bias. It talks about resentment as well. Those benchmarks are pretty much nebulous. If you also look at the rhetoric in the past, because we must look at this conversation from both ends. If you look at the rhetoric in the past, even of the president in respect of, the judiciary, unanimous FC talk and all of that, and the fact that it seemed the judiciary under Gertrude Tokonu was abrasive towards the NDC. And now with the NDC in power, wouldn't you say that there is some reason in thinking that she is being targeted?
Have you looked at the petitions that were, it was leaked? Have you read the petitions that were submitted to the president?
I have seen them.
Exactly. You have seen them. Fine.
I have.
And yes, many of them. And so was it NDC people that wrote that petition? One of them is a lawyer and a policeman for that matter. I recall that I was in court at that time when he was treated that way. I was not surprised that he was part of the petitioners.
I've also heard people who say that they were in court that day and the way that person was acting in court was a far cry from what you would expect in court. I'm not speaking for either side. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and also play both sides. I have also heard people tell me that the actions of that person on that day in court, someone else who was in court on that day, were not befitting of, the court.
No problem. I mean, we are not here to talk about whether someone's own was fitting or not. But where I stand, I wasn't surprised that he was part of the petitioners. But he's not the only petitioner. There were other petitioners there. I don't see this as an abuse of discretionary power. I see some of my friends and seniors indicating that there ought to be a regulation. It doesn't require, it is not every, power in terms of discretionary power that you require regulations. This is purely an administrative act. And in any case, you cannot divorce Article 296 from Article 146.
Right.
There's a procedure in the removal of a Chief Justice. You cannot talk about discretionary power without reading or looking at what is the procedure when it comes to a removal of Chief Justice. Right? Don't forget, after the petition, it was the Madam Tokonu was made to respond as her right. Natural justice, for all of us as Ghanaians, to respond to the petition. It wasn't that people wrote petitions and they got up and established prima facie. No.
All right.
She responded to it. And don't forget, in all that, the Council of State was consulted. The president cannot just get up and suspend Chief Justice. No, they can't do that. No president can do that. Council of State was suspended, so was consulted.
Do you think, I want us to accelerate. Do you think the processes for the removal of a Chief Justice ought to be looked at? Sophia Kufu, who herself is a former Chief Justice and now a member of the Council of State, which means that in discussing these matters in the Council of State, she would have had a case, right? And the Council of State, whether it's unanimous or whatever, decided there was a prima facie case, right? But she also says that these processes ought to be looked at again. though she is not criticizing the president, but she thinks the processes ought to be looked at again. Do you think, whether in conjunction or not, 146 and 296 ought to be looked at again to set a certain standard, a higher bar, if you like, for these processes to be triggered? Do you think so?
For me, I don't see why we have to look at a provision because of some, dissent comments from people who are not comfortable with the removal, and most of them are NPP people, and so that is why
let's take out NDC. Let's take out NDC and NPP in this.
Of course. But the point is
please, Gideon.
All those
Gideon. I beg of you. Let's not make this conversation NDC, NPP. I want us to have a legal, scholarly, nationalistic conversation, please. I know you are a member of a certain group, but let's take out the NDC and the NPP. Go ahead.
That is fine.
Go ahead.
My position is that there's nothing to look at in terms of the provision.
Right.
The Constitution is clear. The procedure is clear. I do not see why some provisions will have to be looked at because of some concerns. Because, look, the president cannot just take a decision without consultation with the Council of State. Some people have questioned the Constitution, how the Council of State is constituted, and saying that the president has to appoint people, and those people that you appoint may be politically aligned to them. But the point is that some of them are elected. An election means that the people, the good people of Ghana are those who elect some of the members of the Council of State, apart from the appointment. And so everything is, I don't see any issue when it comes
I'll come back to you shortly. I'll come back to you shortly. But even on that very point, Dr. Amache Boateng, do you think the way we have our Council of State, elected or not, do you think we ought to take a second look at it? And do you think, because in the past we have had certain stalwarts of this side and that side dominating the Council of State, do you think the Council of State can be weaponized? Do you think so? What do you think, Doc?
Ben, I talk about politics and institutions. The problem we have in Ghana is not our institutions. It's not the way the Council of State has been structured to be put in place. The problem is you and I, the interest with which we go into politics. The problem is our politics. We are a people rigidly divided. No constitution will be able to sustain if we don't really do one thing. We all have interest. But we should have a national interest that, as much as possible, many of us will want to, relate to and be guided, by. We don't do that. Everybody is an interested actor, meaning that everybody, acts in one or another way, consciously to ensure that a particular political tradition prevails or otherwise. And to the extent that we behave that way, no constitution will be able to accommodate that thing and allow peace to prevail.
Right.
In fact, that's to me one reason why we are not delivering, economic goods for the people.
Right.
Fourth Republic so far appears to be doing well politically. Economically, we aren't getting anywhere. It's simply because of the interest, which necessarily drives politics. Interest drives politics, wherever we find ourselves. But everywhere, they are also guided by the national interest. And this is missing in Ghana. Yes, the Council of State can be weaponized, given our politics.
Though we elect them the way we do, it can still be weaponized.
It can be weaponized. It can be weaponized, actually. It can be weaponized. And it will be an interesting thing to make this an issue at this material moment. We have stayed with it all the time. That is why the former CJ's case fascinates me. Her ladyship, Gloria Kufu, also, that's her first name. Because, I mean, when did it occur to her that we need to take a second look at the procedures, you know, about the removal of a CJ? When did it occur to her? Is it just now? Has she been around all the while?
And in fact, during her time, there was a petition against her. So what is this now coming to mind? I'm just along those same lines.
Yeah, yeah. Why now? So we can't do that. We can't talk about reviewing those procedures now. We can't talk about the possibility of the Council of State being weaponized. Now we can't do that. We stay with it for how long? Intellectuals have, you know, scrutinized our constitution. I've read several, you know, works by Professor Kosi Prempeh about the need to reform our constitution and stuff like that. The politicians have stayed with it all the while. So I mean, we should allow the system to unfold as it is.
We should allow the system to unfold as it is. But I know you're not a lawyer, but if you look at some of the discussions that have been had, there are diehards who say there's nothing in the Constitution that has been flouted. And they'll point to the legal instruments. But there are some others who will also say, but at the same time, you must, you know, exercise this discretion in a certain way. My question to them is, where in the Constitution, 146 or 296, is this discretionary bar stipulated categorically? That's my problem. It's like going to court and trying to prove someone is a witch or wizard. How do you prove it? You see, that's the problem. What do you think in terms of that divide? Do you see any things that could be going wrong? Some, for example, point to the fact that, look, a whole chairman of the party has passed comments which may be seen to be, what's the word I would use? Which may be seen to be biased, for lack of a better word, in respect of the CJ. That other stalwarts of the party in power have also said same, and that affects the process. And others will tell you, but those people don't engage in the legal processes that would lead to either the suspension or removal or retention of a Chief Justice. Where do you stand on these matters?
Man, you see, initially when I talk about politics and institutions, I have these issues, you know, at the back of my mind. Those comments will have to be examined in the context in which they were made and the basis that, you know, the individuals use in making the comments. So what has been the behavior of the judiciary until now? How has our judiciary been, if you like, constituted? This packing of the judiciary that I heard the NPP Nana
and we'll get there. We'll get to that point. The packing. We'll get there.
This packing of the judiciary. Some people also made mention. Accused Nana Addo of packing the judiciary. I saw something on social media indicating the number of people that the presidents so far in Ghana have, if you like, supervised over their inclusion into the judiciary, and you are not mistaken that Nana Addo really has had a lion's share. You know, when all of us saw that there was something palpably wrong, terribly wrong, with the inclusion of a politically exposed person into the Electoral Commission. We all cried out. NPP kept quiet as a party. They kept quiet. When some time back, the opposition of the day pointed out that Ken Ofori-Atta was mismanaging the economy, the NPP initially came on board, retreated, and then they folded up. Have they been acting in the supreme interest of Ghana, at least in the past few years? If the answer is yes, then we can take whatever submission they come up with now seriously. If the answer is no, then we rubbish it. They are being political. They are simply indicating that they have an interest in certain individuals continue to stay, you know, in the judiciary.
And so with the Chief Justice as well, you think it's a play out of interest. Some people feeling this person is for us, and if this person goes, our interest may be affected. Is that what you think is at play?
I'm analyzing the behavior of the NPP so far as the demonstration of their interest for Ghana, allowing the Ghana thing to guide some of their actions, and then linking it to this one. And my conclusion is that, yes, that is what is playing out. It is interest that is playing out. It is interest that is playing out. The way they didn't support Ghana in the past few years over certain critical issues that were palpably wrong. Kenu Foriate's case, eventually, he was taken out, indicating that NDC got it right at the time. They came up with the issue. Somewhere along the line, the same NPP, when they replaced the majority leader of the day with the current minority leader, the party was sort of divided. They came public. I saw it. The Honorable Joe Osei spoke. And then they folded up once again. Once again, they sacrificed the party's interest as far as that issue was concerned, because that was the initial reaction that one would want to say that came, like an economic sort of reaction. And that turns out to be the genuine reaction. So when people behave like that, you can't trust them.
Okay.
So their position now, to me, is hugely political. It's interest.
It is interest.
They are biased in the way that they are going about this particular issue.
So the NPP, the minority, you, from where you sit, if you are looking at precedents, how they've acted in the past, you feel that they rather are being overly biased and it's about their interest in this matter.
That's the point I'm making, Ben.
All right. Let me, just hold for me, I'll come back to you. Let me bring Gideon back into the conversation. You make the point that, look, this is nothing new. It's the Constitution taking its course, like a river flowing. It's the course of the river, and the river is running its course. But at the same time, in the past, there have been investigations against, or petitions against, the likes of Georgina Theodora Wood, Sophia Kufu herself, Justice Enini Yabwa, and in the past, under Kufuado, Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tokono. And none of them was suspended. The Constitution says the president may suspend. How do you feel about that in this regard? Why is it that it's only now that a Chief Justice, yes, a petition, prima facie case, is getting to this point? Because in the past, it never got to the point where a prima facie case had been established. But once it's established, this suspension, is it political?
In the case of Madam Georgina Wood, how did it end? Okay. Was the president interested in looking at the matter? Or he felt that to him, he wasn't going to look at it? We have to look at the situations, differently.
I don't get the point you're making. Elaborate further.
You mentioned names of Chief Justices, and I'm asking you, in the case of Madam Georgina Wood, was the president actually, ready to look at the matter? Or he felt that that was not the time?
The point being that in all of these instances, no prima facie case was established. It's only now that we have a prima facie case being established.
And who establishes a prima facie case? Is it the president?
I have never said so.
Exactly. So yes.
But he does it in consultation with the Council of State.
Yeah, so it comes to the fact that the president doesn't establish a prima facie case. You brought a petition to him. He has received it. He is supposed to receive the petition. When he receives it, he is supposed to refer it to the Council of State. Right? Now, he's also supposed to call on the party that is being alleged to have done ABC to respond to the petition. He has done that. After that, a prima facie case is established. He's not the president. The president has no hand in terms of establishing prima facie case. He has only indicated that there's a prima facie case, and he may suspend you. But I'm saying that there's a reason behind suspension, and it's not just for the Chief Justice. And I'm saying, Ben, you as a host, when it is alleged that you've done something ABC, God forbid anyway, you would you are likely to be made to step aside or suspended so that you don't end up interfering in investigation. The investigation is not, it may go in your favor or not in your favor. But the point is that in the event it goes in your favor, whilst you are there, it will be said that because you were still occupying the position, you have interfered in the investigation. I don't see how this should be an issue. That is why you didn't want me to talk about you didn't want me to look at it at the political eye. But I'm glad that Doc has indicated the political eye on this matter. Suspension doesn't mean sack. Suspension is just to make sure that we are having a level playing ground in terms of investigation. If Madam Tokonu is still in position, functioning as a Chief Justice, it comes out that the investigations indicate that she is innocent, there may be a call that she has interfered in the investigation. If also she's still in position and it established that she's found, it is indeed true that the allegations are true, it will also be indicated that perhaps there has been some interference.
All right, I get the point. On the point of
just about Chief Justice, it is everywhere.
All right,
you cannot be occupying a position
Gideon,
when there are allegations against you. It's simple.
Right, that point has been made. Let me ask you though. On the back of the rules of natural justice, you have to listen to the other side and do a host of other things. Do you feel it is fair that members of the NDC, senior members of the NDC, have made public pronouncements on the matter, some even suggesting that the CJ must go and that she will go? How do you think that looks for the optics of it? Because it could even be a purely legal process, but when this kind of rhetoric comes in, how do you think it impacts the general psyche and lays the foundation for wrongdoing maybe in the future on the back of tit for tat or, you did this, so I'm doing that? What do you think?
Well, the fact that, some, national executives have made such comments does not mean that the procedure must not be followed. Yes, some people may say that it doesn't help.
I want you to hit the nail on the head. Do you think it is right that those pronouncements have been made?
For me, I don't think that there's anything about right or wrong here. This is an opinion by someone. Yes, but we are not doing cross-examination here.
I see.
This is right. This is an answer from someone or for some people who are not lawyers and don't have any legal background. And so when they make such comments, you can't say that, well, because they make such comments, it means they are right. The question is the procedure being followed? Has there been any breach? If there's no breach, then then there's no need to be making noise and be going on some unnecessary demonstration over a matter where we all know the procedure. We all know the procedure in terms of when there are allegations against the Chief Justice. And I repeat, suspension doesn't mean sack.
Let me just make this point. Reverend Lati sent it for you, and I'm going to just shoot it to you. He says, good show. 296, on 296, the discretionary powers must be established from common law. Where does Tete, that is you, where do you stand on this view? What's your stance?
In terms of discretionary power, it has been indicated that it must not be arbitrary and all that. I don't see how the power has been used arbitrarily. And you have to marry Article 296 to Article 146. You cannot divorce it and do your own interpretation. It doesn't work that way. And that is why, in this case, if a prima facie case had not been established, there would have been no suspension. There would have been no suspension. But a prima facie case, and that is the ground. That is the ground for the president to decide whether to suspend or not.
All right. Doc, this planned demonstration, what is your position on it?
Well, in the first place, some people would like to exercise their political rights, and it's good that Ghana has room for that. Everybody needs to be heard, you know. So one, it's something that is good for the system. In fact, it's good for Ghana's democracy. And then two, when people go public, you know, they really exercise or take advantage of the opportunity to make their position on crucial issues. No. So it's going to be captured historically. At the end of the day, if they were right or wrong, you know, and like I just said, that whatever it is, the motives will be established at the end of the day when the dust settles. And if the case goes through adjudication and proper evidence produced and a final determination made, then Ghanaians can, you know, do a review to tell whether the whole thing was political or not. But you see, given the nature of that particular office, the CJ, the office of the CJ, you know, the office itself should have integrity. The office itself should have integrity because the office supervises over the administration of justice in the whole country. So that if the occupant of the office does anything untoward that affects this integrity thing, definitely that officer would have lost it and will have to be replaced. So people, you know, making the call will have to balance their call. I think they are exercising their right, you know, demonstrating, but it does not necessarily mean that they are going to sway everybody along with them.
On the last point I want us to look at, and we have just about a minute and a half each to look at it, the packing of the judiciary. I remember under President Akufo-Addo, there was a lot of talk about that, and we are adding too many. We are doing this, we are doing that. But they said it was what was needed. In fact, when it came to the Supreme Court, the former Attorney General said, appointment of more Supreme Court judges will ensure effective justice delivery. That's what he said then. Now, there have been some nominations, and some members of the bar will also tell you that there were people who were jumped when they deserved. They had the credibility, they had tenure, the number of years they had practiced law, the number of years they had been judges in their favor, and yet people who were many times their juniors were promoted above them. Then there is Reverend Latte's comment on this. In reflection of what has been said, he says, the bantamweight NPP parliamentarians must focus on how to amend the constitution to limit the powers of a president to pack the Supreme Court with more judges than embarking on a mass street protest. The mighty USA has 9 Supreme Court judges. Little Ghana has 16, and adding 7 more to make it 23. And I say that if we continue like this, maybe we could even have 50 if we want to play the political ping pong. That'll be my final question for you both. What do you make of it, Doc? And then I'll take Gideon, and it's a wrap.
Then it's the same politics, it's the same interest. They don't care about Ghana. They want to ensure that structurally they are safe, whether in office politically or not. They don't care about the outcome. That is why that wide disparity between the size of the U.S. Supreme Court and that of Ghana.
Okay. For you, Gideon?
Ben, you said the former AG said is to help promote what? Effective justice delivery, eh?
Right.
So, of course, so if he's saying so, there's no problem with also, you know, adding 7. Definitely, then it means that there has to be, you know, more of effective justice delivery. But the point is that once it is within the power or it is within the constitution, and is done in line with our national constitution, I don't see where the problem lies. If there ought to be changed, then there ought to be change in terms of the provisions of the constitution. Until then, anything that is done in line with our national constitution is constitutional.
Let me just ask you this in passing. That's it. Will there be any attempt by this president to tweak the constitution in any way so that he can get a third term?
This matter has been addressed. There is no way President Mahama is going for a third term. But the constitution is clear. He says that you only have, you know, 2 terms. There is no way President Mahama is even thinking, he has not even thought of it, and it will never going to happen, that he wants to tweak the constitution for a third term. For what? I mean, I don't think he's going to do that at all. And we've stated that, we've stated this our position clearly in terms of the noise from the NPP saying that we have plans to no, I mean, for what? That's the point. I want us to understand that the NPP are only doing this because they have an interest and not going to help anyone. This demonstration is highly unnecessary. And look, the point is that they have the right. Every Ghanaian has the right to demonstrate, just as every Ghanaian has the right to go to court. And I don't want to use the word that my national chairman said, any idiots can go to court. Same applies for demonstration.
You're using it.
I don't want to use it. I don't want to use it.
All right, thank you.
But that is it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So basically, once it is everything, every step we have taken.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Reverend Lati snuck in a last comment. He says, my learned friend Gideon is running away from constructing and applying May, the question I posed to him. The fact that prima facie was established, the president must exercise his discretion to proceed. I am saying that the discretionary powers must be established in common law. That is what Reverend Lati, a lawyer himself, says. Those who joined the conversation, Dr. Amache Boateng, a political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Gideon Tete is a member of the NDC's legal team. He also joined the conversation. Still to come, I'll be sharing with you my blunt thoughts in a bit, and I'll just repeat. I've titled it Galamsey Going Gaga, Ghana's Educational Cha-Cha, a military banger, and our assets declaration saga. A critical breakdown. Don't you forget, this show is proudly sponsored by Way Lead Properties. I'll be telling you more about them after the break.